crew, Arturo Spraycasso here. Today we're going to be watching a time-lapse video of this amazing spray painting right here. We're going to be covering how to do some clouds. So I hope you guys are ready for this. It was a lot of fun to make. Alright, grab your cans guys. Let's do this. First things first, I've already placed some colors underneath. I have a stencil of what I want my planet to look like. I've added some light blue, a little bit of green, and some white. Now I know I usually use a magazine sheet to create the texture, but that's not the texture I was looking for in this particular painting. So I added a rag. The rag is really good to actually absorb some of the paint. As you can see, it's almost like dried, and it has a really cloudy, faded effect. That's what we were going for. The stencil you can buy in any store out there. It's a microwavelet. It comes with a little, just like a little handle on top for you to pick it up. Really easy to use. I'm using a little bit of light blue to go around the planet. It's important that you go pretty good around the planet so you get a nice circular planet. Now we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of dark blue on top of this. This will make a nice contrast, and that's what I'm going for. I want it to look like there's enough light out there that you can see the light blues mixing with the dark blues. Going around our planet pretty good. Just quick sprays all the way around. Now I'm using hot pink. Hot pink, once it mixes with the blues that we added underneath, it's going to turn into a purplish. So you're going to get purple, different shadings of purple throughout your painting. And I think it's pretty, you can see that pretty clearly. Now, once again, with our light blue, I'm going around our planet. This will give our planet like a glowing effect. It's really cool. I definitely recommend you guys experiment with these kind of colors. You want to go with some darks and then some lights. Now, you guys know how to create stars, right? The star technique, infamous, right? You tip your cam 45-degree angle away from the painting. Very gently let the white sputter onto your canvas. That way you get brighter stars, so not so bright stars, smaller stars. You get a combination of the mix. You don't get like a pattern to it. So I definitely recommend you guys try this if you haven't tried the star technique before. Now this is how I create my clouds. This is just a poster board. I mean, this poster board would have been good for me to paint on. This is the same material, the same stock. You can use cardstock as well, which is very thick. Just created a pattern, and look, just a few sprays with my white, and you get the idea of how the clouds are starting to take shape. This is the same pattern over and over and over. Now I cut another stencil with a different pattern. The difference is that now you're not going to have that same consistency repeating over and over and over and over. It's going to look different. I know some of the spray painters out there that concentrate on clouds will have 3 to 4, maybe even 5 different patterns that they use in their clouds. In our case, I'm just using 2, and I don't know if you're noticing this, but I'm flipping them. I'm flipping the sides of them, so it looks like different patterns, but it's still the same. Just going over it, a little bit of white. Now notice how I added white bursts into the clouds. That makes it look like it's more vibrant, like there's more light coming through. Now on the other clouds, kind of like with the water tinting technique, I'm just adding different colors on top of the clouds. We're going back with our white just to kind of give it that glow effect. I wanted to make sure, look at the size of the moon, right? It's pretty big, so I want the light to be pretty obvious. I'm going to create another pattern here. This is, guys, you guys can do this. There's no problem to it. You just have to kind of go through it. Some people actually use scissors too. Whatever it takes, guys. Get the pattern that you are looking for and that you're going to be comfortable working with. Right? Now, I'm just repositioning here a little bit, adding a few sprays of our purple. I want the colors to really stand out. Now notice what I'm doing here. I added a little bit of our purple, and now I'm just kind of blending these colors together, very much like what we do with our water. Just blending them together. Now this is just another technique for you guys to add to your repertoire of skills, but in this case, guys, I'm actually gonna make some water. So we're just gonna add a little bit of white here, some quick sprays. You get that nice little reflection of the clouds reflecting off from the water, so it looks pretty realistic. Little quick spray there. Yeah, now this is how you can create some background terrain. Notice how I just faded into the background. I'm gonna create another one. smaller one right here. Pap, pap, pap. It's that simple. It's that simple. I know there's a lot of spray painters out there that that do this technique. So you'll see different variations of this techniques out there. Just gonna blend the white a little bit more. You want those ripples to really stand out. I mean, that's what we're going for too. Now notice what I'm doing here. I'm changing the pattern just a little bit, just by removing some of that additional poster board. Just gonna go right here. Look at that. I concentrated a little bit more paint on it, so it makes it darker. I'm using dark blue, by the way. And as you can see, the ones in the background just fade in. It was quick bursts. As the terrain gets closer to us, I'm adding darker clouds. I mean, darker clouds, darker sprays. So it makes the terrain look darker, closer. Okay, we're just gonna continue with that. Now, the next thing I'm gonna do, when I get my poster board here, I'm gonna use some yellow. See, I also want some of these bright colors. I want the painting to really stand out. So yellows, oranges, blues, pinks. When you mix them together, you get variation of different effects. So it looks really multicolor. Notice I added the white, then some orange. This is just going to be perhaps some sand closer to us. Now I'm just going to use a little bit of red. I'll start blending these colors together. Notice how the red blends with the yellow, creates like an orange-like tone. Use some white and our handy dandy Spraycasso tool. I'm telling you guys, this tool is fantastic. I'm gonna create the effect of waves coming ashore, coming closer to us. Now, you don't have to spend a whole lot of time to creating all the finer details. Now, notice what I'm doing here. I just created the colors, a nice little blending effect, and I'm just adding some white right around the edges, and that gives us the effect like this is the shoreline and this is just the water very gently coming onto the surface here, onto the shore, right where we're standing. Now, what we said this too, make a painting more realistic, you're gonna need some details, right? So a lot of it lies on the details too. Notice when we added some of that highlight closer to in between the land, we smeared that light together right there. That creates the effect like there's this really bright sunlight. And then now what I'm doing here is I'm adding some oranges and just blending the rest of the colors together. So it's all in the details. We're giving the viewer plenty to look at. I'm just gonna add a little bit of purple. And I'm gonna work on these highlighted areas, just using the Spraycasso tool, back and forth. Very easy to use. Highly recommended if you guys haven't experimented with it yet. So now we have this amazing moon, fantastic clouds, and terrain in the background, all while having a nice view of this shore, of this water coming onto shore. Just gonna keep working on those little details that we were talking about earlier, back and forth, back and forth. It's important, guys, because the more details you add to it, the more realistic it becomes. The more it will draw people into this world of yours. Now, here's another way of creating terrain. Now, the only reason I'm not using the stencils is because I want the rocks to be, since they're closer to us, I want them to be more defined. I want them to have shadows and highlights, and maybe even mix with some of the colors that we've added underneath. I'm just gonna add another little rock here closer to us. See, a stencil wouldn't have covered some of these highlighted areas and darker areas, which is why I'm adding them with the Spraycasso tool. You also want to make sure that the painting is almost dry when you're doing this. And I say almost because, like I said, I do want some of those colors to blend with the colors that I just added with the dark blue. I'm just gonna add some additional highlights, light blue going through it here. Notice how easy it is to blend. Just tap and smear, tap and smear. Now, another way that you can do this is adding a little bit of clear coat if you want the paints to mix or blend even more. Alright, I'm gonna define this a little bit more. I'm just gonna add some more lines on the water, and this is just a little bit of a white. There we go. Look at that. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, tap. Gotta make the sound effects. This is just gonna add that touch of realism. Let's take a look at our water. Notice how realistic is starting to take place, and that's all because of the details. You guys want to add some of those water ripples around the rocks because the water is crashing into it, right? So it's very important that you concentrate and spend some time on it. Tap, tap. I'm just gonna smear this like this. Add some additional ones. I know we added some colors earlier, so it doesn't hurt if you go through and add additional white, additional highlights to your water, to the water ripples in this distant terrain back here. Back and forth. It's starting to take shape. Look at that. Alright, we're going to use a little bit of purple. Put that right here, our handy dandy sea sponge. So I'm using purple in this case to create the pattern of grass going into the water. You guys know I love the grass technique, love adding it, and look how much more perception and depth it adds to your painting. I'm using purple again. Quick strands going in through the water, and this is just quick strokes upwards. It's the same strokes that I use for creating grass strands, and I mean basically that's what we're doing here. Now the grass is a little bit taller. If you've been to the beach, especially in California, they have these really beautiful, I don't know what they are, I don't know what they're called, but they're these huge enormous mounds of grass that just kind of like grows out of the sand. It's fantastic. That's the effect I was going for. Now of course there's also grass around and surrounding these rocks, so I'm just gonna go ahead and add some of those rocks there, and some of this grass here closer to us. Now notice how high I'm making these. It's not your typical grass, it's really kind of small. As it gets closer to us, it gets really tall. Alright, just gonna add a little bit of yellow. Now, I just removed the part of the sea sponge that had purple on it. Removed it, cut it off. Now I'm tapping into some yellow and just adding additional highlights to it, adding more colors to the palette of the grass that we have here. So now you have some purple mixed with some yellow, and that's going to give you some nice little transitional areas there. I'm doing the same with the grass around the rocks here. I mean, you can't forget these grass strands, guys. I know it's a mistake that we've all done before. Concentrate on highlights everywhere else, and then you leave that one spot that doesn't have any highlights. It almost looks like a silhouette layer, and sometimes it'll stand out even more. Just gonna add a little bit of clear coat. I'm gonna create some lightning here in the background. I'm using a older version of the Spraycasso tool. This is one that we used to have manufactured, right? And it uses actually it's almost like an X-Acto knife. It's made out of the same material, except it's not sharp. But I added some clear coat, and now I'm going through it and giving the effect of lightning bolts here in the background. You guys can create one out of popsicle sticks. We've got videos on that on our YouTube channel under the Spraycasso tools. Alright guys, well that's the spray painting that we created today. A lot of fun making it, and I highly encourage you to give it a try. Alright crew, until next time, keep those cans shaking.